Hello, K.Jolie, Crochet Basics, and in this episode we're going to make an electronic baby alive, a sleep gown. So this one also doubles for a baby doll, 14-inch, 15-inch baby doll, and it came out super cute. So for this one I'm going in a pound of love. All right, I got pastel pink, and they make such really pretty colors on these Pound of Loves right now, the Lion brand Pound of Love. I'm going in an H hook, an H8 5-point millimeter. You can do your starting chain with a bigger hook, just in case. You need a yarn needle, a scrap piece of yarn in a contrasting color, just to mark, right side from back side, from the outside from the inside. And I think that's about it. You need a snap. I'm using a snap this time, just to make it easier. Give it a shot. All right, and I think that's about it. A tape measure, a scissor, the usual suspects and stuff, All right, so let's get this going. So before we get started with the Lion brand, and I love that it comes bagged. But what you can do, because actually I think a lot of Lion brand yarns don't pull from the center. You can't pull from the center on them. And if you do, a lot of times you'll end up with a huge mess. A giant knot, or, whatever. So, what you can do is unravel some of it by pulling it over. Not too much, because you don't want it to knot up. It will not. Okay? And then I have a little basket. And just leave it, and then I'm just going to put that aside. And you can always use a binder clip. You can always just clip on, just protect, and you could just feed the yarn through the binder clip. And that'll keep it better. And you can use the binder clip. I love the binder clips. You can use them with other yarns, different whatever, just to get a smooth pull so that your ball of yarn isn't flying all about. All right, so you'll do a slip knot to start. Okay, so if you don't know, you'll wrap, crisscross, pull underneath, and tighten up. Okay? Okay. I hope this yarn shows on top of the white. Okay. All right. So we're chaining 41 on this one in your H hook. So H8 is a 5-point millimeter, and we're going to chain 41. And if you can go a hook size bigger or 2 hook sizes bigger, if you think it's going to curl. When you do that, it keeps it from curling. It helps it lay flat, your starting chain. All right, so we're going to work back and a half double crochet. So you'll yarn over, right? You'll yarn over. You'll push through one side of the braid, yarn over, pull up. You have 1, 2, 3 on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3, and that's a half double crochet. And you'll work that for the row. For 40 chains, so you'll have 40 stitches. Chain 1 and turn your work. When you get to the end of the row, and I hit my light. Okay, doing good. Okay, so after row 1, you're going to go on both sides of the braid. Okay, so front and back, both sides of the braid. So you're going to chain 1, turn your work. You're going to work a half double crochet from row 2 to row 6. You're going to work 1 half double crochet in each stitch, back and forth each row with a chain 1, turn work. Okay? So you'll chain 1, you'll turn your work, and then both sides of the braid. I'm trying not to zoom in too much because I always forget to zoom out. If you've seen any of my other videos, I always forget to zoom out. I get excited when I remember to zoom out. Alright, so from row 2 to row 6, 1 half double crochet in each stitch, and I'll meet you back after row 6. So you can pause here if you're working it along with me. Alright? And make sure you add me to your, either subscribe or add me to your, the video to like your lists and stuff. And so you remember who you were making it with. So you don't lose me. Because I do have other doll patterns up there. I have Electronic Baby Alive. That's the talking one. I have the regular hard body Baby Alive. And I have a couple of items that double from the Cabbage Patch Preemie and the Baby Alive, and also, what are those? Those Welly Wishers, those American Girl dolls, the Welly Wishers. Alright, now yeah, I'm going to have more doll patterns coming up. Okay, but you see, wait, before I cut off here, or before I tell you to pause and all that, you see it's starting to curl a little bit? So, my starting chain, just the starting chain, and then switch back to the H if you need to. If it's curling quite a bit, it's your tension, and it's the size of the starting chain is much tighter than the stitch itself. So with that starting chain, you can go up a hook size, 2 hook sizes. I wouldn't go much higher than that because then you would have, sometimes you would end up with big loops, you know, big droopy loops. Alright, but I'll meet you back right after I finish row 6 on this starting piece. Okay, so in case you needed to know, it should be like not stretched, but you know, once you start really working it and stuff, you should be between like 10 and 11 inches, maybe a little over 11, depending on your tension. Okay, and this one really does go by the like the yarn, because I did do this in a different type of yarn in the H hook, and it was way bigger. It was a bulkier yarn that I didn't realize. And then even in the regular Red Heart Super Saver, it came out bigger. Okay, so the homespun, even though I'm not homespun, the pound of yarn, the pound of love. What? The Lion Brand Pound of Love. Dear Lord. Okay, even though it's listed on the label as I think a size 4, and it suggests a J hook, I always thought that was a little that was reaching, because I feel like it does work up more like a sport, you know. I mean, it's not a bulky, it's not as bulky as like say Red Heart Super Saver or the regular Karen, you know, but for some reason they have to use a J hook on it. I never use a J hook on it. If I use a J hook, this is an H hook, and which is 2 sizes smaller than what they suggest. And I mean, like, look at the spacing on it, you know. So experiment, see what you like. But for this one, we're definitely using the H hook, and the Pound of Love works out good on this one. Okay, I'm just finishing up my row 6 now for this, and then row 7 we're going to work the armhole, working up. All right. So, okay, I always try and give you as much measurements as possible, in case you're new to me and you don't realize that, just so that we're on the same page. So far, after 6 rows, I have about a little over 2.5 inches of width. And then working it along, I have around 11 inches long in length, which it goes from the neck to the feet. This is a sleep gown, a nightgown, so it goes from the neck to the feet. And you can even go longer with that. They have these, I remember them from my nieces, they have these, like they're sleep gowns, but the bottom closes up, So I always liked them. I guess, they were a little bit of a pain in the butt when you had to do a diaper change because you had to open it up and pull it all the way up, around the kid to do the diaper change. But I love them. My sister put them kids all in them. Okay. Number 7 is where we're at. Okay. Row 7. Row 7, you're going to chain 1. You're going to work 1 half double crochet for the first 32 stitches. And then we're going to turn our work. All right, so row 7, we're only working the first 32 stitches, and then you'll chain 1 and turn your work. And you're going to leave those last 8 stitches, the last 8 stitches unworked for row 7. All right, so 1 half double crochet in the first 32 stitches. Okay, first 32 stitches. And of course, let's see. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so we're going to leave those unworked. These we're not touching. You're going to chain 1 and turn your work. And you're going to work back for those 32 stitches. So 1 half double crochet each for the 32 stitches, and we're on row 8 right now. So right now we're actually in the, we're working the side of the gown. This is where the armpit is going to be. I don't really have armpits, but the underarm is going to be there, and here's going to be the top, the shoulder. Okay? So 32 stitches down, we're on row 8. Chain 1 and turn your work. Now for row 39, what? Now for row 9, oh my goodness. For row 9, we're going to work all the way back up, and then we got some chaining up in there. So row 9, you're going to chain 1, turn your work. So row 9, you're going to work a half double crochet, and then we're going to do some chaining. So a half double crochet in the first 32 stitches, and then we're going to chain 7, and then we're going to work one last one in that very end one, a very end stitch. All right, so I mean, you know, if you, I guess, I don't know how you say, practice if you're new to crochet. You know, practice. I put the abbreviations on the screen so that you can see what they are. And usually, hopefully, most of the time I do remember to put the abbreviations down below so that you know what I'm saying. And hopefully, I have had several people tell me that it did help them to learn how to read the patterns by doing that, you know. So I do hope it helps. I mean, because it's time consuming to actually put, you know, break the pattern down and put it on the video so you can see see how to do it as I'm telling you how to do it, you know, read the pattern and such. So hopefully, but a lot of things, you know, it's practice. If this is your first project, it's going to be a bit hard to understand it, you know. Okay. So make sure you have your 32 in. All right, so from here we're going to chain 7, and you're going to work a single crochet in that last one. All right, and a single crochet. And I know it's going to look off, but it's going to help shape the neck after, if that makes sense. All right, so one single crochet. If you don't know, you yarn, go through, yarn over, pull up a loop. You have 2 on the hook, 1, 2, yarn over, pull through 2. All right, and you'll chain 1 and turn your work. And you're going to work a half double crochet in the first 7 stitches, and then in the remaining 32, you're going to go through both sides of the braid. Both sides. All right, both sides. So 1 half double crochet in each of these chains, and you should have 7. Wait, chain 1. You'll have 1 stitch in your single crochet, 1 half double crochet in the next 7. Okay. Make sure you pick up that, don't forget to pick up that single crochet. All right, and then after you get down to your 7th chain here, and just be mindful, you want to make sure that you have a good amount of space for the armhole. Some of these dolls have thick arms. I hate to be rude, but it's true. Okay, and then you're going to go on both sides of the braid for the 32 stitches in a half double crochet for the rest of this row. For row 9, I hope. No. Is this row 10? Row 10. Yeah, row 10. The half rows throw off my counting. Sorry. So we're on row 10 right now, working down in the half double crochet. Yeah, okay. We should be on row 10. I'm sorry if my counting is a little off. The half rows throw me on my counting. I mean, I'm reading a pattern, but I don't know. Silly. This is the 3rd time I'm doing this video, so I really hope this video works out already because I don't want to do it anymore. This is probably the 5th nightgown I've made for a baby alive. Just on this one pattern, I kid you not, because I was using the wrong yarn. I had a hefty stitch count, way more than 40 on the first one. It was like crazy. It was getting way too big. Then I had to adjust everything, and then I had to adjust the yarn twice to make this nightgown. So crazy, right? All right. Okay, now that should have been the end of row 10. Whoo-wee. I know I'm totally like wackadoodles at this point. All right, so after row 10, just so you know, I got about 4 inches across. 4 inches across, still at the same. This is going to go in a little bit because this is the front, so that's going to help with the shaping of the neck. Okay? So now, from row 11 to row 20. Row 11 to row 20, 1/2 double crochet in each stitch, back and forth, per row, both sides of the braid, with a chain 1 and a turn work at the end of each row. Okay? I know, I'm getting a little silly, but no, really, I'm not even kidding. This is the 3rd time I've done this pattern, and it's also, like, I can't tell you how many times I've made it. I think at least 5 times. And I've restarted it. I can't even tell you how many times I've had to restart, pull out, and all that kind of thing. All right, so just so you know, this is the front. This is the front. Here's the first armhole. Here's your tail, your starting tail. Okay, so that's how you know that this is the front. And you can mark it if need be. Usually a nice little scrap piece of yarn in a contrasting color, which also works great as a stitch marker, a contrasting color, a color that's going to stand out in your stitches. It's going to pop. You're going to see it through, you know, in the yarn. So if you're using pink yarn, don't use a pink scrap yarn stitch marker. Or a pale yellow or a white, it's going to blend. All right, so from here, row 11 to row 20, 1/2 double crochet in each row. If you're making it with me, you can pause. Okay, and I'll be back when we're ready to start working the next armhole. I hope you're still with me. I know I'm a little amped up because of how many times I've done this video so far. So now I just finished row 20. So for row 20, okay, here's our first armhole, and here's our starting tail. So for row 20, just like when we did row 7, you should be at the bottom, like the foot of the piece. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing we did here for making the second armhole. So what you're going to do is, let me see if I give you a measurement. So this is always, you know, it's yarn, it shifts, it moves, your tension, my tension, all the things. So an approximate measurement here is about 8 inches. 8 inches across, which would be like around the body, all right? From where your armhole is. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing we did for the row 7. We're gonna do, for row 21, we're gonna work 32 half double crochets, chain 1, and turn your work, and you're going to work back down for row 22. Okay? So row 21 is 32 half double crochets. What is my problem? Okay, so after you work your 32, you'll chain 1 and turn your work. So for row 22, you're going to work back down the 32 half double crochets. Okay? So we're on row 22, and we're working 32 half double crochets. back down to the bottom, to where your feet would be, the doll's feet would be rather, for 32 stitches. Row 21, no, row 22, 32 stitches. Wowee. And then you'll chain 1 and turn your work, and then we're going to work the 32 stitches. We're going to chain 7 and work a single crochet in the very last stitch over here. Okay, so you'll skip all of this and you'll chain 7 and you'll work a single crochet at that last one for row 23. Okay, and then you'll chain your 7, and in that last one, I'm going to work a single crochet from the collar. You'll chain 1, turn your work, and we're going to work back in a half double crochet. So you'll work that first stitch where you just did your single crochet, and we're on row 24. Okay, so you'll work for row 24, you'll work that 1 half double crochet in the first, you'll pick up your 7 chains, and then you'll go back to both sides of the braid for the rest of the row. I pulled too tight over here. You don't want to do what I just did. I just pulled my chain way too tight over here. I would have been struggling to get through it. Okay, try that again for row 24. 1 half double crochet in your first stitch and in all 7 of your chains. I don't know if the camera's picking it up. They're doing construction on my corner here, the city. Alright, and then both sides of the braid once you get past your chains for 32 stitches, and we're on row 24 still. Sorry. And you'll chain 1 and turn your work. Okay, so now from here, that was row 24. Okay, so now from here, you can pause here when you're ready. And so from row 25 to row 30, row 25 to row 30, just 1 half double crochet in each stitch, back and forth all the way, ba-ba-bas. Okay, so row 31, you're going to mark. Now I'm doing this with a snap. I'm not doing this one with a button closure like I usually do. I usually do a button closure for these, but this time I'm doing a snap because half of this is sewn. The back of it, half of it is sewn, sealed, and then just the snap. And the snap it's an overlap for the snap to tighten that up, but I'll show you that in a minute. Wait, okay, so for row 31, you're just going to work the first 25 stitches. You're going to work 1 half double crochet. So for row 31, you're just going to work the first 25 stitches up. Okay? And that'll make it easier to dress, to get it on the doll's body. Okay? Because this will be open and you'll be able to get the doll's legs up in there. Because these dolls are kind of wide. So, and then they got their talk, they have electronics and all that kind of thing or whatever, and the head moves and all, the mouth moves and all that stuff and everything. But the eyes don't close, right? Hungry. Oh, the head does move. Okay. I never turn it on. I know it has batteries in it, but I never turn it on. Okay, well, anyway. All right, the head wiggles too. Very good. All right. So what's going to happen is you're going to work one more row, the 25 down, and you're going to pull a tail, and then we're going to seam it. If you want, you can slip stitch it or single crochet it. If you do, you'll get a heavy seam, a very thick seam, and it could also, I don't know what the word is. Cinch, I guess it's cinch up, like it'll be very stiff, and also because this is the starting chain, it's not as stretchy as the stitches, so it becomes like if you slip stitch it together, you end up with a thick seam. So it's kind of just easier to, or user friendly and whatever, to just seam it up, just real quick with a yarn needle. And it doesn't even take that much. I know everybody's like, ooh, sewing, a lot of times with the sewing, we're not sewing all the pieces, we're just sewing the seams. So we're gonna sew, you can do the sleeves on this if you want or not, that's optional also. So, but it is long, it's long enough to cover the feet on this one. And this one also doubles for this, like a 14-inch baby doll that you could see in the pictures and stuff. I got a hold, excuse me, I got a hold of this strawberry shortcake doll that I had as a kid that was thrown out, when I was a kid or whatever. Anyway, I found one on eBay and I just had to have it. It just brought me so much happiness and stuff. So I think that's, sometimes that's the best part of being a grown-up, is when you can replace certain things that made you so happy when you were a child, things like that. Oh my gosh, I wasn't recording. Okay, so from here, row 30 is a button loop. If you're gonna do a closure, a button closure, I'm sorry, I just filmed this. I just did this whole thing and the camera was not on. So I'm a little thrown. All right, so sorry. Okay, I'm a little bit jumpy now that I had the camera off. All right, I'm up to row 30 here because the camera was not on. So I'm gonna do a button closure. if you are not, if you're going to do a snap closure, do not work the button loop, okay? Just work row 30 and regular, all right? These are the type of buttons I go for. They're called toggle buttons. I always think, whoop, I always dropped it. I always think these are easier for smaller hands. And also because the crochet is so thick, you know, it has to sit a little higher, and I think it just makes it easy. That's why I always go for these. Dress It Up is the name of the company, but all different companies make them. I just always seem to have Dress It Up buttons because I bought a whole bunch of them because I got so excited about themed buttons. So, all right. So we're going to work 1/2 double crochet for row 30. 1/2 double crochet in the first 37 stitches. I'm sorry. 37 stitches for row 30. If you're doing the button loop, have your button ready so you can make sure it fits before we close up. All right, you want that button to fit through. You don't want to be frustrated later on or have to go digging around to find another button that fits if you had something in your head already. Okay, I can't believe I just filmed that whole thing and did not have the camera on. Oh my goodness, it must be Monday again, but it's not. 37, all right. Now here, real easy. Chain 2, skip 2, 1, 2, skip 2, chain 2, skip 2, 1/2 double crochet in the last. Okay, chain 2, skip 2, 1/2 double crochet in the last. Right, real easy. Make sure your button fits. You know, all you have to do is just push it through. You don't have to sew anything at this point or any kind of thing. You don't have to sew your button on. Oh, you need needle and thread to sew the button on. Whoops, sorry about that. Okay, or if you're doing a snap, you need needle and thread to sew the snap on. Just put that out there for you now because I forgot to say, I know I forgot to say it in the beginning of this tutorial. All right. Whoo! That was row 30 button loop. So row 31, we're going to work back. So you'll chain 1, chain 1, turn your work. In this first one, you're going to work 1 single crochet. We're switching up our stitches. So actually, you know what? Don't even do that. If you did the button loop, if you're doing it with a button, just go right around two single crochets around the chain 2 loop, 2 for 2. Okay, 2 chains, 2 spaces skipped. Now we're working back 2. All right, so 1 single crochet around the chain loop twice. All right, 1 single crochet for each. All right, so if you're unsure, you're just going to go around. Don't bother going through because, you know, don't make yourself crazy. Just go right underneath, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, single crochet. So do 2 single crochets and then work back in a single crochet for the next, we just skipped that first one. So it should be a total of 39 stitches. So you're working back for 37 stitches in a single crochet for row 31. And then this is the last, and then we're going to close up on this. But take measurements, make sure it's going to fit your baby doll. All right. And then we'll work the sleeves. And then other embellishments. If you want to do accent colors, do ruffle, whatever you want to do on this one. I love you know, changing it up and stuff like that. All right, but if you're doing a snap and not a button, do not do the button loop. Don't bother, okay? Just work the finishing rows, which would be row 31. All right, let's make this happen, right? So not terrible. I hope not terribly confusing. You know, I'd like to give you options on the closures and stuff like that because not everybody wants a button. And not everybody can handle dealing with a snap. It takes a minute sometimes to figure out, you know, to get your rhythm and stuff like that. you know. I've been working on this pattern for a while, and then I had to put it aside because it was just coming out way too big. And it was just making me so crazy. So I had to switch yarns. I switched yarns like several times. And sometimes that's a big deal, like if you're new to working patterns and stuff like that. The yarn and the hook size really sometimes will totally dictate the sizing and have something come out way bigger or way smaller than it, you know, should be and stuff like that. So that's always something to take into consideration. The sizing on the yarns, that's newer. That wasn't always the way. The size 4, the size 5 with the bulky, size 6 extra bulky, whatever it is, that wasn't always the way. But not all yarn is the same. I'll buy yarn, 2 different colors or something, the same brand, same whatever, and one will be thicker. And it's, you know, sometimes it's just kind of like a, wow, what happened there, you know? And then a lot of times I find with the multicolored yarn, it's like thinner. When it's a multicolor, I always find like it's thinner. All right. Okay, so from here, I'm going to pull a tail. It doesn't have to be tremendous. You're just going, you know, these stitches, and it's not a lot. You know, you just boop, boop, boop. You know, what do they call it, a whip stitch or something? It's not too big of a deal. So you don't really need that long of a tail, is what I'm trying to tell you. All right, but you will forego, you will not do your last chain 1 on the bottom. You're not going to do that. You're just going to pull your tail. Okay, turn the piece inside out. You're going to line up from the bottom. Okay, line up from the bottom, and this is as high as you're going to connect, right where your little 2 rows, your row, what did we just say? Row 31 and 32. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I moved around my dang post-its here. Yeah, okay, so row 31 and row 32 with a half rows with 25 stitches each. Yarn needle will do you. If you do not have a yarn needle, a tapestry needle, darning needles are the best. Darning needles are the best for amigurumis. Oh my word. And I also love seaming up. Tapestry needles are my jam because they have, they're not too thick. They're not too thick, and they have a long eye. So it's easier to get the yarn, to squeeze the yarn and get it in. And then these are darning needles. I love these. I got these off of Amazon. And they have all different bends. Some of them have more of a bend in them. So they've really upped my amigurumi game. No doubt about that. It makes it so much easier to sew the pieces together when you have the right tools, you know? Just in general statement. Okay, all right, I got a tapestry needle right here, and I'll pull out my snap. Now you can do sleeves on this if you like. You can do a ruffle, any embellishments, ribbons, bows, buttons, whatever you like. So you can make a few of these. They work up pretty quick after you get the first one done, and if you don't miscount your stitches. They work up pretty quick. But you'll line up from the bottom. Okay, and then you'll just go through each stitch until you get to here, and then you'll stop. You'll leave it off. And then the snap that I'm going to do is going to, the back overlaps a little bit to close up, and then that's where the snap is going to go. So you line up. Here, this is the inside of my piece. Okay, and you'll just go through, not a big deal. And this and don't pull too tight, you know, because then also, but what happens is with the starting chain, if you slip stitch it closed, your stitches are much looser than the starting chain, you know, because they're half double crochet and not, you know, like a single crochet or whatever. So okay, I think I'm going to put that aside for a minute. Okay. I'll put that aside for a minute when I get to it, and then let's do the sleeves. Sleeves are optional. The sleeves are optional, and let me show you how we'll... Okay. Wait. Now I'm confusing myself. Okay. This is where we started. This is where we ended. This is where the doll's going in. Can't see. Am I zoomed in or not? Nope, not zoomed in. Okay, I'm just real close up to the camera, sorry. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. Well, you see in the pictures and everything, because I always show pictures of before. So it does cover her feet. You can go shorter with this if you like. You don't have to do the 40. I did the 40 because I do, like I was saying, it reminded me of the little sleep things that my nieces wore when they were babies. Okay? And then for changing the diaper and stuff like that. This video is up there. It's last year, 2 years ago, something like that. And I did it with the buttons, if you wanted to see. And I also have the diaper for the regular baby alive, the not talking one. Okay, so after this is seamed up, it would be seamed up to here. That's where the overlap is. All right, so here, this would seam up here, and then here is where you're going to put the button, right off of the shoulder. Okay, the snap. So it would snap shut here. All right, and if you wanted to do a ruffle, I like this one. I think it came out fun. This is the like 5th time I'm making it. Different yarn change every time I had to make it because the yarn was just too bulky and it just kept coming out too big. Even though I went from Red Heart Comfort was the first one and it was super big and bulky. Then I went to regular Red Heart Super Saver and that one was decent but still oversized. And the Lion brand Pound of Love seemed to work out the best because it, even though it's suggested as a size 4 medium weight and use a J hook, it's a thinner yarn. I don't know what they're doing over there. Like I don't know who decided it should be that, but that's always just a suggestion on the yarn anyway and not a rule. Okay, so you can leave it sleeveless if you like. Your choice, of course. All right, for the sleeves. Wait, where's my yarn? Oh, okay. For the sleeves. You're going to chain 17. So you'll do a slip knot and you'll chain 17. See, I don't really do a slip knot. I just do a crisscross on my hook and pull through. And it makes it adjustable. All right, so chain 17. All right, you'll hold it flat. You'll hold your braid flat and you'll go in and do a slip. So a slip is just pulling through. You should know that by now because we already did that. Okay. All right. Slip stitch, boo, boo, boo. And skip 1. Oh, 1. All right. So after you slip, you'll chain 1 and you'll work a half double crochet all the way around. So you should have 16 half double crochets. The starting that 14th or the starting chain whatever, that counts. That counts as that 17th stitch. All right, so you should have 16 all the way around. And you can always go bigger with this, or, you know, however you want to do. right, so that's 16 for me, and then I'm going to go right in to where I did that chain 1. Slip, chain, slip, chain, slip stitch, chain. Now for this, for the sleeve, so I worked around about 10 rows for the sleeve. Okay, so chain 1. Okay, so you'll work, what? 10 more rows. What? You can go longer with that if you like, or shorter with, shorter, however you want. Okay, whatever makes it easier for you. And then also, if you go, sleeveless and you don't do the sleeves for the nightgown, you can always make another one and do the sleeves. And you can do half sleeves or long sleeves or even a frilly lace, not lace, or lace too, but, like a ruffle sleeve on top and stuff. Because even that, and then you got a few outfits. Check out, I'm going to put the links below for Crafty Conjuring. Her videos are a few years back, but she shows you how to make a wardrobe out of a box for the Baby Alive clothes, to keep them nice or whatever for your kids. And she does it with a box and some elastic cording, just some elastic and stuff like that. And she shows you how to, make a whole little wardrobe and stuff so that the Baby Alive can, or whatever doll, your Baby Alive or whatever doll it is, can have, a nice little wardrobe also. So I always liked that one that she did. One thing I do not like about the Lion brand, this particular, the Pound of Love, I find that it pulls apart, or not pulls apart. Like you'll get a loose strand. You know what I mean? Like one of the strings will come loose. If you get what I'm saying. Like the whole yarn doesn't catch in the hook sometimes, and then it's a pain in the ass to figure out where it came from, like which loop it came from. So subscribe, give a thumbs up, all the things that keep the channel going and stuff like that, and I'll keep making the doll clothes. What are you gonna do? Okay, so with the sleeve, again, you could do a half sleeve, a ruffle, however you feel. All right, so here is 9 rows. And here's my starting chain, my starting tail on this. Okay, so I worked 16 half double crochets in the round with a slip stitch and a chain for 9 rows for this one. So the last time I did it longer. Now pull a tail. Doesn't have to be ridiculous, okay, because you're just sewing the sleeve on, but I'll show you how to do it real quick. A little bit longer than this so that I can cut off and weave in. Okay, so here's the outside. So you'll turn it to the inside, you'll line the sleeve up right through. Okay, so this is the outside of the sleeve, the inside of the dress. You'll line it up like this, and it takes no time at all to sew. You're just going to whip around in a circle and go from there. So super, super easy. With the sleeves, maybe go through twice each stitch. Just, especially if, it's a kid's toy and stuff like that, if they're playing with it, on and off, right? On and off with the clothes, with the kids. That's how they do with their dolls and stuff. Okay? So, but just make sure you're not accidentally sewing it closed. All right? But just real quick. And I lost my thing. Way to go. Not too tremendous, you know, to me. I guess not too big of a deal. But once you've done it once or twice, it's not too big of a deal. Even if you're new to it, you know, you just gotta breathe with it, and you'll do just fine. And a little practice, you know. I always think you're not going to get anything on the first try. And if you do, it's usually a fluke. And I hate to be negative or any kind of thing, but, you know, and then also sometimes it's how it's being taught to you is also a thing. When I was younger, I kept asking my grandma to show me how to knit. And I would nag her. That was in 5th grade. And I was like, please, please, Grandma, please, please, you know. And she really didn't show me very well. She said, watch my hands. And I can watch your hands all you like, but unless I'm feeling the material and figuring it out, how to hold whatever, you know, hold the yarn and hold the stuff. Yeah, it was real wonky type of situation, you know. And I think, and I hate to be, you know, pessimist or whatever, but I think because of the way she showed me, you know, because she really didn't want to show me at that time, but she's like, all right, fine, I'll show you real quick. And I think that's why I never really picked up knitting very well. I mean, I can knit, but I don't start any knitting projects. I have plenty of knitting needles and all types, but I don't necessarily think, oh my goodness, I'm going to knit something. You know, that's a rarity. Like that's, you know, I'll pull out the knitting needles maybe once a year. And then I'll get frustrated and usually give up. Okay, just to show you, I didn't even finish seaming up the back, but just to show you. All right, you'll get your doll in. And their fingers are always a problem. Is it me? Their fingers always get caught. Barbie fingers are the worst, right? Barbie doll fingers, because they're so skinny. They sure do get cooked on the knit and the crochet, no doubt. All right, so this would be seamed up. This would be seamed up to here. This is going to be where your snap is, right off of the shoulder. We're doing it on an angle, which I do a lot of these baby alives. I do them on an angle mainly because they don't really have a neck and they don't really have shoulders. So when you don't do it on an angle or like a crisscross in the back, it has a tendency to slip off the doll because they don't really, you know, there's not much going on. But you can do the sleeves longer, shorter, or not at all, you know, however you feel. With the bottom, since this is a pull-on, with the bottom, if it does come long enough, you can actually slip stitch or whip it, you know, whip stitch, whatever, sew it closed, you know, and then it's one of those baby nightgowns, those baby sleeper things, romper, sleeper, whatever they're called. I have no clue. Okay, so you'll make the other sleeve, you'll sew that on if you're doing the sleeve. You'll seam up your back. You'll finish seaming up the back. Easy peasy. Not a big deal. You'll weave in all ends. You'll sew on a snap right here. Right off of the shoulder. You know, you don't want it too tight or whatever. But that's, you know, maybe you want to do the 2 sleeves first before you stick the button. Or the snap, rather. Alright, and you'll see what it looks like. Well, you see what it looks like in the beginning of this video and right now. So with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. As always, happy hooking because it keeps you off the streets and it keeps you out of trouble. Please like and subscribe, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Links below for other tutorials for the baby dolls, for the Baby Alive regular, Baby Alive electronic, and Welly Wisher, and the Preemie Cabbage Patch. I have a few crossover things that fit that type of doll. All right, and whatever fits the Baby Alive electronic does fit like a 14-inch baby doll, if that makes sense. All right, so thank you so much. K.Jolie, Crochet Basics Baby Alive, electronic Baby Alive sleep gown. I'll be back real soon with my next tutorial. Thanks. Take care. Ciao.